Hello, dear viewers of DMRTV. You're welcome to Mountain Echoes tonight. It is Thursday, the 7th of December 2023. We're getting closer to the end of the year. Thank you very much for your fidelity onto this program. And we know that you're always there to watch and follow us on the issues we bring on the table, most especially current issues that are topical in society that you can always learn from as far as the program is concerned. And the panel, we usually bring the experts from different fields, different walks of life who are always here to dissect the issues we bring to you for discussion. So tonight is another edition, interesting editions, and our panelists are already here. Tonight we are going to be looking at the 2023 Human Rights Day that is forthcoming. It is coming up on the 10th of December 2023. Now, unfortunately, on that 10th, which is a Sunday, we are not going to be having Mountain Echoes. This is for this reason we are bringing this program at this time, today the 7th, so that we adequately inform you, educate you on what this day, Human Rights Day, is all about. So we would like you to have a very rapt attention as we kickstart the program tonight. You want to learn quite a lot as far as human rights are concerned. So my name is Mbako Jude, your host this evening. I have two members on the panel. I'll quickly want to start to my right here. To my right, we have G. Lucas. G. Lucas is a civil society actor. He's based here in Boya, and he runs an organization, Rere Herbert, which is the founder of that organization. J. Lucas, you are specialized in defending the rights, especially of children, and this has to be very specific as far as education and well-being is concerned. You're welcome to this edition of Mountain Echoes.
Thank you very much, Jude. Like you rightly said, I am also the co-founder of Rere Habit, and basically we are there to look at how children should enjoy their rights without necessarily being at the center of their activities that should enforce the enjoyment of their rights. That is, they must not be the ones to carry buckets on their heads to have food. They must not be the ones to carry the things we see on our streets to have the life they deserve. All we are saying is this: if we decided to put up this center where we are now providing education for children who could not displace themselves and those who do not have the means to go to school, it is because it is their right to education, and we believe that together we can make things better, which is one of the thematics of Rere Habit, this which is currently on the ground. I know many people do not know that we are also there to advocate for against climate change. That is, we want to also ensure, because until when we make the universe what it should be, then human beings cannot fully enjoy their right in a universe which is being destroyed by man.
Right. So we are glad to have you as we're going to be looking at human rights this evening. Now, to my left here, we have Berry Nwe Kajitan. It is the first time we are having Kajitan on Mountain Echoes. I want to believe it's the first time I'm hosting you on the program Mountain Echoes. And Kajitan is the lead human rights officer, for the Center for Human Rights and Democracy in Africa. That is CHADA. CHADA is a well-known non-governmental organization here in Boya that advocates for human rights. Now, CHADA has also written its name in those very credible institutions that have always taken out time to register, to encapsulate, to record, to keep archives of human rights violations, especially within the context of the crisis in the northwest and the southwest region. So we are glad to have you, the lead human rights officer for CHADA, Kajitan. Thank you for coming.
Oh, thank you very much for also giving me the opportunity to be here. I'm coming from the Center for Human Rights and Democracy in Africa, where we have been monitoring, documenting, and also reporting on human rights issues relating to the conflict affected regions of Cameroon, including the northwest and the southwest regions, and also the far north regions or region of the country. And it has been a tough journey. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you as well. We are going to be looking at these issues tonight. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us. Now, like you see on your screen there, we have Human Rights Day 2023. We have context and perspectives, which we are going to be looking at this evening. And we hope that if you have a word you want to contribute, you have the number on your screen there. You can always send us. So if you follow the program on our Facebook live on Facebook this evening, you're going to get this program. Now, for us to actually kickstart this discussion, I want us to listen to what the UN Secretary General has as far as this day is concerned, because we are also looking at the 75th. In as much as we are celebrating human rights this year, it is the 75th edition.
Anniversary.
Yes, anniversary for the Declaration of the Universal Human Rights. So the Secretary General of the UN says the Universal Declaration shows the way to common values and approaches that can help resolve tensions and create security and stability our world craves. So this document, which we are going to be talking about this evening as well, is very important as far as helping to reshape the security and the stability of the entire world. To put this in right perspective, we would like you to watch this video. It's a quick video on what this day is all about. We'd like our producer tonight is Kindness Njogo. We want to have the video of what we're talking about. Then when we come back, we get into the topic for this evening.
75 years ago, something remarkable happened on the global stage. The world united to adopt the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. This powerful moment emerged from a turbulent era filled with wars, genocide, nuclear threats, and economic instability. Despite these challenges, nations came together to make a solemn promise to protect and advance the rights of every individual. In 1993, as the Cold War thawed and the Internet expanded rapidly, the Vienna Declaration and Programme of Action played a crucial role in reinforcing human rights principles. Both the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and the Vienna Declaration have been beacons of inspiration, igniting meaningful change worldwide. Human rights have become integral to governance and decision-making. Movements like Black Lives Matter, Me Too, Fridays for Future, indigenous activism, and women's protests have empowered individuals to stand up for their rights and challenge injustice. Young people especially have embraced the language of human rights to voice their concerns, and some countries' courts have held wrongdoers accountable, even recognizing the right to a healthy environment. The idea of a human rights-based economy is gaining traction, offering a way to tackle global inequalities and aligning with the Sustainable Development Goals. Yet, human rights violations persist in many parts of the world, often without consequences. Challenges like climate change, conflict, hate speech, the shrinking space for civic engagement, and the governance of new technologies require solutions rooted in human rights principles. By embracing the universal language of human rights, a language that promises freedom, equality, and justice for all, we can overcome seemingly insurmountable challenges. Together, we have the potential to create a more peaceful and sustainable future for our planet and its people. As we celebrate the 75th anniversary of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, let's remember that it's not just a historical document, but a living testament to our shared humanity, a timeless guide. Despite conflicts that may divide us, it's in the pursuit of peace, justice, and equality that we discover our common ground. Together we can envision a future where every individual's rights are safeguarded, conflicts are resolved through dialogue, and peace prevails. Now more than ever, it's time for human rights. Join us as part of Human Rights 75 to help ensure that every person can live in peace and dignity.
The time for human rights is now 75th anniversary of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. You got that from the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights. And you may have watched the video, and then you'll see the white people everywhere. You're seeing the West, and you definitely think that it's about the West, just because we didn't have the video for Africa. But this is, when you say universal, it concerns the whole world and every part of the world. So let us quickly just get into this. Maybe to keep our audience first on the trail, we may want to first of all understand what human rights are, Mr. Nji. Or why, yes, what basically are human rights?
Yeah, to add to the video we have just watched, you know, everything we see in the world, there is always a particular thing or somebody who have to trigger that. You know, after the Second World War, a certain Jewish French man, René Cassin, also saw it as a need, being a veteran in the war and also being a jurist. He too struggled to bring in his name in this and to ensure, when we talk about human rights today, International Human Rights Day, we are talking about René Cassin, and he did a lot. Looking at all that which they went through, he saw only one thing in this, is that we should have a particular day. We all know what 1948 looks like in the war. We all know what the Second World War was like, and many more. And so when we are talking about human rights, we are talking about the rights that you were born with. And when we always talk about this, we say they are rights which are inalienable. These are rights that should not actually be taken away from you. There are rights that no one should force you to throw it over to maybe a position where it will not be comfortable, like we see in the current state of the world, where people are forced, compelled to lay down certain principles which violates these rights that we are talking about. We are talking about the right to life, or we are talking about the right to shelter, or we are talking about the right to health, we are talking about the right to food, and many more that we are looking at here tonight. So when we talk about human rights, basically this is what we are talking about. The right which every human being was born with, and this right for no reason should be taken away from these persons because of what we see. And what actually triggered this day that we are talking about, the 75th anniversary of it, is René Cassin, being a veteran of this said war, World War II, sought to see how persons who have taken part, because war veterans are in a better position. Remember that most often when you talk about those who violate our rights, we are looking at persons with
on the war front.
Persons at the war front, and most especially people who have
Weapons.
who have the responsibility to protect us. Hardly would you see the person who does not have the responsibility to protect you violate your right. For example, when we talk about the right to life, of course, you should already know that the next person by you has a responsibility to ensure that you should enjoy this right. But in most cases, what will happen is we will find persons who will easily declare war, people who will easily declare things that will not be quite comfortable for us, to take us away from this particular right. So this is the background when we talk about Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And until when the United Nations, and today we are talking about the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which is always on the 10th of December each year, designated to be this day when this is concerned. And of course, we should not also forget that looking at that, we are talking about the theme also of the year, which we all know that it is changing with time, because the world sits and look at the necessity, what is required. Because whenever you are crafting the theme of a particular year, such as the theme we have for this year, the theme basically talks about consolidating and sustaining human rights culture, into the future. Now, you understand that at the end of the day, in some areas of the world, some people see human rights culture to mean a total violation of their own culture. But summarily, we cannot refuse the fact that we have a lot which is ongoing today in the world, which is against this right. And Cameroon being a signatory to this, Cameroon being a member of the United Nations, Cameroon being a party to this particular resolution, because any member country, any member of the United Nations is automatically someone who has actually signed up for this, and you have to respect it. So this is basically what we can look at to mean our human rights and what is International Human Rights Day. It is simply a day designated to make a global call for people to be aware of the fact that we are humans and we have rights, and these rights should be respected.
Kajichan, this is the 75th year of the United Nations, that declaration, that universal declaration of the human rights. 75 years down the lane. It's a school of thought. There's two things that the world needs to sit back and restructure these rights. For 75 years, it will still appear human rights violations are still on the rise. As we speak, the world is still facing a lot of fever. Africa is in trouble with its own crisis, political crisis here and there, coup d'etats here and there, climate change every day. I recall that we are talking about COP28, which is ongoing now in Dubai. Those are climate change issues, those are human rights issues.
Yeah.
We are talking at the moment when we are still running on the 16-day activism against gender-based violence, which means that it is still escalating across the globe.
Yeah.
We are looking at the Ukraine-Russian war, now the Hamas and Israel saga. The world is still in serious fever. Rights are still violated 75 years down the lane. Do you really have something you can make out of this?
Human rights, as Mr. Tanji rightly said, they are inalienable, they are indivisible, and they are universal. And when you look at the celebration of the International Human Rights Day, which is often celebrated on the 10th of December every year, and that was when the Universal Declaration of Human Rights was adopted in 1948. You see that the Universal Declaration of Human Rights is the blueprint, that model law, we can put it as a model law for the promotion and protection of human rights at a global level, because when you look at how the Universal Declaration of Human Rights is being structured, you see that from Article 1 maybe to 21, you discover that more of the civil and political rights are discussed there. And when you leave from here, you're going up to Article 30, you discover that more of socio-cultural rights, these third generation rights or second generation rights, they are discussed there. And it is because in those days, the world was run by the West and the East, and when you read this declaration, you see that their ideologies were taken into consideration while drafting this Universal Declaration. And you also know that many countries around the world, they have either adopted the preamble of this Universal Declaration as part of their constitution, or they have adopted either one or two articles from this Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And when you begin to look also at the CCPR, the International Convention on People on Civil and Political Rights of 1966, you also discover that some of the issues are addressed there, that maybe some of the issues were better explained subsequently in this convention. And the fact that we are still facing human rights issues at this particular time, the 21st century, and this document, which is the model law, has been existing for 75 years. Today. It is a call for concern that the international community, when I talk of the international community, I mean the state, and they still need to revisit some of these issues, and also the strategies that have been put in place to maybe to accomplish some of the promises that were highlighted in this declaration. Because if you look at, for example, the 2030 agenda for sustainable development goals, which came up in 2015, you see we are already close to towards the deadline for which we sat somewhere and said that we are going to accomplish most of these goals, which most of them are tilted towards sustainable future, especially environmental protection. And you see, when you also look at the African Union with its Agenda 2063, you look at all of these agendas, maybe we still need to go back and look at the strategies that we are putting in place. Because if you look at, for example, for what is happening in the northwest and southwest regions of the country, I always refer to Goal 17 of the Sustainable Development Goals, which calls for strong partnership among nations and among individuals. And you look at what is happening in Cameroon, not many people are aware, not many countries are aware of what is happening in Cameroon. And also maybe Cameroonians are not also aware of what is happening in other countries. So there is still that gap of partnership. There's still not that strong partnership as we are supposed to have. And also when you're looking at Goal 16, which stands for strong institutions, you discover that most of these institutions which are set up to accomplish the goals of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, maybe like the United Nations Security Council, you have the AU, you have regional bodies. Most of the institutions are not actually that strong to help us accomplish most of these goals. I think that we are facing what we are facing today because we lack strong institutions, as well as we lack strong partnership, as well as there is also the need for us to sit again and maybe analyze our achievements and see what we need to accomplish ahead of us, and maybe go back to the drawing table.
Well, that explicit explanation can definitely only come from people like you who are into the human rights industry. Yeah, you are into the industry. And Mr. Anji, when you listen to Kajitan, he's taking us through the global and then back to this micro perspective, looking at the general picture of the world, Sustainable Development Goal 2030, African 2063, and even our own President Biya's own is 2035. So when you bring all this agenda closer, you realize that I don't know whether it's from my perspective that like he said, there is still a gap. The knowledge on human rights is still very, very weak, especially in our African society, where we don't see many people coming out every day. Many human rights activists are taking for just opposition. We don't see people coming out to defend. Unlike in those days, we used to easily hear of people like Malcolm X. We used to hear of people like Martin Luther King in African context, Kwame Nkrumah, leaders who were human rights actors, activists who could stand and then defend the people for a cause. Today, this narrative is different. Human rights activists are seen like opposition, and today politics has enveloped the stage. When you talk of human rights, they say no, negotiate like this. And where do we resolve? Where do we come to play to ensure that we can actively engage every stakeholder at every level in this whole human rights engagement?
Yes, I think it should be it should like the theme of the year talks about it being a culture. We have to make this a culture. This is greatly lacking. Under normal circumstances, this ought to be a daily discussion in every homes. Whatever religion you believe in, you should also have this as one of the religion that is there to make things better. Because when you look at the objectives, basically, if you were to look at the different articles that talks about the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, if you look at it one after the other, especially when you move down, it protects the people's culture. There is the cultural right of the people. And this is something that I love so much with Kajenta, is that he is someone I call a human right defender and a culturalist, if he permits that, because most of the times he enjoys this right and many people do not see it, especially when he posts certain things pertaining to this aspect of the right. And like you rightly said, that there are times that human rights defenders are misconstrued to be political party opinion leaders or holders. I think this is because most often, like I said, the incumbent or those who have the responsibility to protect the people tend to see when you are saying the right things to mean that you are actually opposing them on doing the right thing. Let me give you a vivid case which I experienced in Limbe about 3 weeks ago, where someone was actually remanded by the police, the Central Police in Limbe. And when we went there, I went there personally, haven't had all that which was required, and did every single thing as was required at the level of the police station. Then I was told by one of the investigator, I think the lead investigator, that it has come to a moment where we have to pay for bail. And summarily, bail is you are buying your freedom. And with the level with which things are unfolding, he who does not understand these things may want to think that it is the norm in place. And that is why I said, most often those who violate our rights are a person charged with
the responsibility to
protect our right and to ensure that we enjoy these rights. And the way things unfolded, at the end of the day, when I went to the state council, he understanding exactly what is on the ground, he had to look into this. You see, many people do not know that only the court has a right to ask you to pay for your liberty. And it is not decided in every case, because there are cases, especially when a situation, when an offense is a bailable offense, for example, which this person has a right to this particular bail. Now you realize that some police officers, some gendarme officers, and many more who are now into remanding people unlawfully, in most cases, now they start asking you for you to pay bail. Now you start buying your freedom, and you have the freedom that you have to enjoy. You get it? So what is happening is that it should be a culture. It should be something that, as Kajenta is on the other side, as the Center for Human Rights and Democracy is on the other side doing it, as Recover and Rehabilitate is on the other side doing it, as this person is on the other side doing it, we should continue that, because it is the promotion of human rights that will easily help humans to enjoy this right, because promotion of human right brings a lot of protection of human right. For example, what you know about your right eventually causes the person who is charged with the responsibility not to actually bring you down. If you come to Cameroon, for example, when you look at, let me pick out a particular case. When you move to, let me take the special status given to the Anglophones. Now, there are particular rights enshrined in this that the Anglophones have to enjoy. But when you look at the people charged with the responsibility to ensure that these people enjoy this right, and if you go back to look at how it is being implemented, then you will realize that it is poorly handled. And at the end of the day, if you do not make this a culture where the people need to know, as you get up, like I said, when you get up in the mornings to brush your teeth, then you should tell someone that this right is yours. This is what you should not be doing. This is what you should do. And this is what you have to do. So I think it is all about us making it a culture, making it a tradition, making it a lifestyle. If we do not make this a lifestyle, it will be very difficult for many people to see that this right belongs to them. And this is why when you look at the work we do on the ground, sometimes some people may want to think that we are opposing the government. No. For example, when you look at all the conventions ratified by Cameroon, let me take the CAT convention, the Convention Against Torture, for example. Now, the government is responsible, because whenever you hear these treaties ratify or these conventions, you always hear the state and the government. So the person charged with the responsibility to ensure that you enjoy this is the government in place. So you realize that, for example, when it comes to the Convention Against Torture, when you move to most detention facilities where torture often takes place, it is the person who is supposed to prevent you from being tortured, get you tortured. And at the end of the day, they will tell you that if you do not use this means, how do you expect to have an information from that person? You see it also within the context of the ongoing crisis in the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon, where you are quick to hear maybe a military person tell you that he had to torture this person for he or she to know that this person is a member of the non-state armed groups. But that should not be it, because even at that, a conflict has rules. And the right enshrined in the rules of that particular conflict, no matter what happens, these persons need to enjoy this right, for example. But when you say things like this, on the other hand, like you rightly said, proponents of the government in place, proponents of military torture, they will tell you that you should allow them to do their work, which is a total contravention of that which we have ratified and which we have signed and ratified.
Right. So, Kachita,
Yes, sir.
we have when he's talking about human rights, or when we are talking about this, I'm sure that many of our viewers are looking at this thing to be far away from them. You understand? They're looking at it like it's some kind of a document somewhere. Talking about Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and you're talking about rules of war enshrined in the international humanitarian laws, and all these things are happening. That's why we are trying to zoom out the context and then the perspective of our own environment. You work for a human rights organization that takes out time to monitor these violations and then compile them, archive them. I mean, tap back to our context. Maybe let's look at our context a bit and see where are those areas that we can point our fingers on and say this is it, this is it, these are areas of human rights violation.
Okay, thank you very much for that question. I think when you look at the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, it talks about the right to life. It talks about the right to freedom of movement, freedom of speech. You hear the right to fair hearing. These are human rights, and when you begin to go down now, you be asking yourself that how are these rights violated? How can these rights be violated? Most of the times, if you take for an example the ongoing armed conflicts in the northwest and southwest regions of the country, you will see that the right to life is often violated as a result of indiscriminate killings, right? Or targeted killings. When you kill somebody, you have violated that person's right. I know within a few, maybe within the practice, we call if a non-government non-state actor, if they commit a human right violation, it is termed human right abuse. Since the primary responsibility lies on the state to protect that right. And when you kill somebody, you are violating that person's right to life.
That is, you who has the responsibility to protect that life. You have violated the person's right to life.
And then if you do not have that primary responsibility to protect, you have abused that person's right to life. And now when you look at the right to fair trial, you look at what is happening in the northwest and southwest regions. For example, you see arbitrary arrest and detention being perpetrated against civilians, population. You see people staying in pre-detention centers. In detention centers.
Infinito.
Yes, for more than 3 days, which by law, according to law, is supposed to be the maximum. And you also look at maybe the right to freedom of movement. You see lockdowns everywhere. You see call for ghost towns and other things, restrictions, several checkpoints mounted everywhere, and you see that it is affecting our right to freedom of movement. And when you look at the right to shelter, for example, you see how houses are being burnt. You see how houses are being burnt, properties are being destroyed. You look at the right to food, you see that as a result of ghost towns, and for example, people are not they are not able to go to their farms. People are not able to even have food to eat. You look at the right to education. You see,
that one of education has been on the lips of everyone on this other side of the country.
Yes, you see, since this crisis started in the 2016, it started as a result of teachers going on strike, on protest because something was wrong. And you see, since that year, I think there are some communities in the northwest and southwest regions that have not witnessed any school resumption. Maybe their children have not been to school for 7 years now. And when you also look at the right to food, the right to shelter, these rights are violated on daily basis. And I think that it is not far. You look at gender-based violence, for example, at our own homes. You see how maybe
children are battered, wives are tortured.
And then you also look at how most of these rights are violated just within us. And there's no way somebody will be saying that, will be asking a question, how are these rights violated, because it is happening on daily basis.
But you people who monitor these rights, you document them, you even report this right. How easy is the process of this action?
Human rights monitoring and documentation is a very challenging profession. Human rights work is a very challenging profession. When you monitor, you document, and if you don't report, it means maybe the monitoring and documentation
should be doubted.
Should be done, or is not going to have that impact.
Okay, we're not able to finish your work?
Yes, it's not going to have an impact on the society.
Okay.
So when you report about maybe the atrocities committed by a party, to the conflict, for example, maybe the government or separatist fighters, you may be targeted, right? You may be targeted because when you report it, when you report about the violation, you are simply calling for maybe for
Action.
the perpetrators to be
accountable,
accountable.
or why not a redress?
A redress, or maybe for the survivors to have that justice. Yes. So you see, it is very difficult. It is a very difficult profession. We often receive online threats. We often receive threats from both parties, and you know, if you are not strong mentally, you will not be able to withstand the, most of these threats. Yeah.
All right. Well, Kajitan, as we speak, I have here a document. It's actually a fact sheet
Yes.
of a production of Chada. This is the mid-year human rights report,
Yes.
which your organization did, and you were one of those who led. In fact, you're a leader of this document. It spanned from January to June,
Yes.
2023. And in this document, there's this fact sheet, this particular page I'm always interested in, which looks at the human rights violations that occurred in the Northwest and the Southwest region from January to June. But I can trust you that if you were to go back from June to December, you record a bit more, because the last case, which had to do with mass killing, I think we left from the incident in Nacho, in Bamenda, where
That's
more than
right.
10 people were massacred there. They were killed. Let me not use the word that is too harsh. They were killed, more than 10 people at Nacho Junction. Then we moved over to Egbeko, where we heard about 30 people.
Yeah.
Some were
Close
burnt.
to 30.
Yes, some were burnt in their houses. Those are human rights violations, the right to life. Then I think one of the last one was the guy who, the Nigerian star.
Yes.
The actor who was in Bamenda. About 6 people were killed because they wanted to ambush him. So most of these cases, I'm always saying that if we were to continue recording, you might find out that there are still many human rights and the right to life, violation of the right to life occurring. But this document says you documented some different violations, and you say between January to June 2023, there were 116 people killed in the Northwest and the Southwest regions, and even far north, due to the conflict. And then you said there were 214 arbitrary arrests in this area. So there were 5 rapes, cases of rape. Those are other violations. Kidnapped. People kidnapped. 98 people were kidnapped. People were tortured by by defense and security forces. We have 189 cases that were monitored and recorded. Attacks and others who were injured, about 100 of them. Inhumane and degrading treatment, situations where people are caught, and then some cases their clothes are taken off. You know, we've seen those kind of cases.
Yes.
Degrading them. Some are sent, they're recorded on videos and sent online.
Yeah, by the non-state
armed groups.
Yeah.
Affecting their image and all that.
That's right.
You said there were 32 cases. Itself was already reporting that we had 1.2 million children who were out of school, and gradually 2023 we hear that they about approximately 500,000.
Well, I think just to cue in, we have approximately, if you look at the I think the 2021 and 2022 UNESCO report on education, we are talking about, I think it should be about 54% yet to go to school.
Great. Which means more than half of that number have gone back to school.
No, yet to go to school. I think that should be 2022 or thereabout. So we are still hoping to
that the rest will join.
To join.
Great.
Yeah.
So my question was, in the midst of all this, these statistics are very worrisome. And as you speak, you just wake up in the morning, you find more violations to people's human rights.
That's right.
How do we engage, especially people in these localities that are suffering from human rights tortures? How do we engage them, knowing how fragile the environment is? How do we even detoxify the minds of people who have been radicalized and they feel that the best way to live in a world which want peace and stability and security is to violate the right of each other.
If you look at what motivated Rene Cassin to be part of, he is the father of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. The Constitution of Cameroon makes things very easy for us to understand. It says universal declarations and any convention that we ratify takes precedence over our local laws.
Right.
So, for example, once Cameroon ratifies a particular convention, be it the Maputo, be it the Rome Statute, be it the CAT Convention in Paris, whatever convention that we ratify, we have to respect it. Some time ago, I said war has rules. And once you are not a combatant, once you are not a party to the conflict, what you need to do is to stay away from the conflict, because once you get involved in the conflict, you will be combated by the opposing party to that particular plight that you are struggling to uphold. That is, you should not for any reason take part in hostilities, because your adversary, since we have belligerents, you are likely to see the opposite person come after you. There was a time Chada organized a particular workshop which centered on people who are not involved in conflict not to take part in conflict. Basically, it looked at how sometimes we forget the fact that when the non-state armed group comes into a community and tells a child to stand by the door to monitor if the military is coming and reports to them, that is you recruiting a minor in the conflict. You are already bringing that minor into that conflict. Now, if you do same to somebody who is not a minor, the person may think that he or she was simply asked to stand by the door and give information that military is coming. But you fail to understand that within the norms of a conflict, you are a party to the conflict already. So it suffices that you should stay away. That is why parties involved in conflict, such as the conflict in Cameroon, the armed conflict in Cameroon, especially in the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon, they should not get others who are not party to the conflict involved. I said somewhere that should the military stand and say, you who live in this community, report to us when the non-state armed group comes around, you are already causing that person to take part in the hostility on the ground. And when the non-state armed group comes into that particular community, that person is automatically an enemy to the non-state armed group.
So how do you fit in? How do you fight against the violation? Because by reporting, it's part of the campaign. By struggling to end hostilities, by struggling to ensure that the community has peace, it's part of the campaign. But now the rule is also that when you participate, you are between the devil and the deep blue sea. Where do we really cut the Kanchita? Maybe you people who are always on the field doing this, you can really tell us. He's painting a good picture of someone who is not party to the to right violation, but now is being brought in. You also have a primary responsibility to as a social contract with the community to report some of these things. How do you do?
So for me, I think that for us, the international humanitarian law has some principles You have principles like the principle of proportionality. You have to know that maybe you have to target both the military object and objectives. The fact that somebody you see somebody because that person can do it under duress. Maybe somebody can just be there reporting under duress. If you refuse, do not know the next minute. And if you as a combatant, maybe a military or a separatist fighter, if you happen to see somebody who is not armed, who is not that armed, you can arrest that person. You can take away that person, not necessarily shooting that person because the aim of the war is not to really kill, but maybe to weaken your opponent. Because the aim of international humanitarian law is not to encourage killings, but also to regulate that. At least even if you are fighting, you should know that you are fighting with humans.
Which is why prisoners of war are accepted.
Yes, that's why prisoners of war are accepted. So I think that to take this education to communities, what we have been doing is that in 2020, China came up with the rules of war. These rules of wars were printed. That's printed on papers as flyers and brochures, and we also recorded these rules of wars, maybe using different languages, French, English, and Pidgin, and shared online, published on our YouTube pages, shared on WhatsApp groups, so that it could reach the combatant also, to educate the combatant that even though you are fighting,
there are rules that should guide the war.
That should guide you. That if you see a humanitarian vehicle, you are not supposed to attack.
Right.
Unfortunately, that's not the situation.
If you see a health official, or you are not supposed to attack schools, you are not supposed to attack health facilities, you are not supposed to kidnap and torture people for ransom.
They
are not supposed to churches,
yes,
media houses
media
like
houses,
this.
journalists.
Of course, Kajitan, but unfortunately, we have seen this from both sides. We've even seen medical health group like Medicine Sans Frontières,
yes,
Doctors Without Borders, who have been sent out by the state.
Yes.
In terms, and these are the issues, human rights issues. That's the right to health that people who live in these areas that Doctors Without Borders was intervening, they have been deprived of the right to health. Now, but this is a document, like you said earlier, the state has actually signed by being a member of the UN. The state has endorsed itself to respect this charter. The state, again, is the one that will work against sometimes other right groups, because I doubt the collaboration that human rights groups like yours have with the state. Sometimes the state, again, that's supposed to be the one to champion this, is the one suspecting their actions. So do you really see a conducive collaboration and the state as the forerunner or the four-person institution that's supposed to fight for the right of every citizen?
Yes, of course. The state has such responsibility. Jude, let me share with you this. Now, it is unfortunate that in our context, human rights organizations are a target. In most areas during such armed conflict, they are supposed to allow these people work because they also serve as an eye-opener to your plight. Let me tell you this. Now, when we document and report atrocities being committed by the non-state armed groups, what we are doing is we are calling for justice, we are calling for a redress of the communities and the people who have suffered this abuse from the known state armed groups. Now you see here that you are likely to be praised by the state, the government. But when you report cases like that which we saw in Garbo, where some people thought that we want to have the name of Cameroon immersed in a very nasty water, you make the human rights defenders a target. And this is why sometimes when we go to places where we need to tell the people what they should know with regards to their rights, you are termed someone who is cooperating with the non-state armed groups, and the vice versa. So when it is something that brings out the atrocious act committed by the non-state armed groups, you are not a problem to some members of the government. But when you are now telling the world that they committed this, you become an issue. There have been situations where some men, because during armed conflicts, you have the SSF, the State Security Forces. Of course, you find them everywhere. And they are also very much involved into atrocious acts, which in most cases, like you must have seen from the report Chada has, they have committed certain atrocities in certain areas. Now, when you move down to the field to educate the people or to call on these people and to advocate for justice, you are a target. So it is it is very dicey. It is dicey. But the most important thing is that if you understand the international humanitarian law and if you know exactly what it is there for, once I am reporting on, because we will always report on, most often please, we report on that which is against the law, that which the law does not promote. For example, if you rape and it's reported, now it makes stakeholders, people with a political will, because every war has different components that if put together, they can easily redress or call to an order that situation. Now, when you report cases of rape in a community, you should already know that women and girls in that community are in danger. And it suffices that something be done in order to protect these people. Now, when you report that maybe the non-state armed groups came in, raped the people, like we got the case of Egbeko, which is said that it was carried out by the non-state armed groups. I think one of the minors who was raped and later on killed. Now, when you report things like that, some people would think that you are there to give a bad name to these people. But it is simply the job that one is doing, which is to report the issues which are happening on the ground. And like I said from the beginning, or at the beginning, those who abuse your right and those who violate your right are people charged with the responsibility. You have the principal person who is always the state and the government. And you have the other party. So these are the only people that will always violate this right. It's like in a home where you are supposed to protect your child as a father to send the child to school. Now, you when it's time for that child to be in school, he is on the street selling egg on the head, carrying egg on the head in a bucket and is selling. Now, you realize that it is not the neighbor who did that. It is the person with whom that child lives who said, this is what you should do. So most often, you would notice that those whose rights are being abused or violated,
the violator is not far away.
the violator is not far away.
It's supposed to be that person who should protect.
That's it.
And we are actually seeing some of the classical cases in our society. But Kajitan, I doubt how much, because you're talking about state supposed to, you're talking about even at the level of the family. This is a call. The day itself, that is commemorated every 10th of December, is a call for everyone, not just those who are charged.
That's right.
But everyone to engage.
That's right.
Now, engaging in different forms, by reporting, by being a practical actor.
Yeah.
Kashitan, how easy? How can we really engage people in this easily, to be very quick? How can we engage? By the way, I want to find out how much government of Cameroon works with right organizations like yours to ensure the fight against violation of human rights. Is the collaboration really collaborative?
Yeah, we collaborate with the state according to the law, because collaboration with the state means that you are respecting the law. Because when you say that you are collaborating with the state
and you're against the law, is
no,
but is the law accommodating?
Some people will think that you are working with the state, because if you say now that, if I say that we are collaborating with the state, maybe the non-state actors will think that we are working with the state.
Okay.
But we work according to the law.
Okay.
Because the law is
the guiding principle of the land.
Yes. So we work according to the law, and when you work according to the law, you are working according to the law of the state. And therefore, meaning you are working in collaboration with what the state wants. And when you begin to look at how we can actually make sure that people knows about human rights issues, my boss, Barrister Agbon Congo, always says that all of us are civil society actors. Each and every one of us are civil society actors, meaning that in your community you should be able to respect somebody's right. If you violate somebody's right, know that you are going against the law, and you are going against the state. You are going against the international human rights law. You are a lawyer, and you willingly go to represent that person. You are directly protecting that person's right to fair hearing. So it is the responsibility lies with us. It is our responsibility as civilians to protect each other's right and to also respect each other's right. And to do this, we also need to know that our religious authorities, our traditional authorities, our quarter heads, our
civil authorities,
local authorities, they are the gatekeepers of each and every communities. When you go to a community and you don't see a quarter heads and you just go there and you are doing your things, just know that you are breaking the rules somehow. So
you might be struggling to fight for rights, and then you're forgetting that you have obligations as well, just because the day talks about rights. So we are looking at a time to quit the studio this evening. This day is coming on Sunday, and we are already how many days have we gone already into the gender-based violence campaign? We're supposed to end on the 10th.
It's
16 days. 16 days. If you want to mind us, it means we are already about the 13th day or so. On Sunday, we are going to be wrapping this up with the Human Rights Day. At the level of an organization like yours, Chada, is there anything you're previewing? It could be activities, it could be a mass sensitization, seminars, workshop, talks. What do you have?
Since if you see me, you see I'm wearing the 16 days of activism t-shirt,
yes.
Which is written the action now, and we have been carrying out a lot of sensitization as far as the 16 days of activism is concerned. It is 16 days of activism to end gender-based violence against women and girls. And also this year we equally advocated for the inclusion of men and boys in the process of advocating for gender equality. Also, and we practice holistic gender approach that takes into consideration the contributions of everybody, whether you are a girl, whether you are a boy, whether you are a man, or whether you are a woman. It is our responsibility, and we have been doing that since the beginning of the 16 days of activism, which began on the 25th of November.
Right. Angel Lucas, we just lastly, right, Human Rights Day 2023 perspective, context, we have examined it all. But as a leader, as a community leader that you are, if you were to paint a vivid picture of the ideal society that someone like you would have wished we live in, where rights are not violated, is there really a perfect society? What can you really paint for us?
You know, the current situation on the ground is a difficult one. We are in a state of an armed conflict, so the dynamics are not the same. If you look at the communities that we now have, you find a lot of children without birth certificate, which also violates their right. So the perfect society is in us. All I can say is that we should be humane enough to put them on the table and live by them. Jude, all the rights being violated by persons charged with the responsibility to protect, and the person abusing these rights, we have the ability to make humans enjoy these rights. It's about us accepting it. This is why the theme of the year talks about we should make it a culture. We should make it a culture such that it can be sustainable. If we make it a culture, it will be sustainable. I speak to my offsprings on the basis of their rights and the norms on the ground. Some people think that I'm going crazy, but this is because I want that they should have it as a culture. You should know that you do not need to insult. You do not need to assault. You do not need to take part in anything that will cause harm to another. It's a culture that we can imbibe these things. Yes. So with regards to this, we can make this society. Yes, someone may want to say, sometimes I have issues when people start saying that there isn't any perfect society. I think it is the foundation of having an ill mind on what you ought not to do.
Right.
Because when I say there is no perfect society, I'm giving myself excuses to do that which I'm not supposed to do.
Right.
And I also take myself away from doing that which I'm expected to doing. So I think it is rather good for us to see ourselves that we have the ability and we can do it. Because we truly do possess the ability
to do it right.
Like we said, when Rene Cassin got up and said, okay, war veterans can do this. This is because he saw that the people who had the tanks, the people who shattered the war, the people who made the war in rubble, have the ability to make it a paradise. And said, okay, let us come together and do this. And having taken part in this, he is known as the father of the 1948 resolution that we are talking about today, being the 75th year. So you realize that we can do it. We can do it. It's all about the willingness. And we have it. Yeah. We have it.
All right. Yes. Thank you, Angel Lucas. We are just talking about perfection, which we often give excuses.
Yeah.
The world can actually be perfect if man decides so.
That's right.
Because I want to quote Dr. Daniel Kongwe in his academic discourse keynote address to students of the Catholic University Institute of Boya, which I followed this day. He also talked about this aspect of perfection. we can actually be perfect.
That's right.
Because God created us in His own image,
That's
and
right.
God is perfection.
That's right.
So why can't we be perfect if we choose to make a perfect society where we don't look at race, color, ethnicity, tribalism, and all this? We respect people for who they are as God created. Then we can live a better society where everyone's right is respected. So, Kajitain Berenwe,